Thursday is the day when you get closer to the weekend. Oops, I mean your goal. So welcome to it. This is Africa Good Morning. We are broadcasting the news making headlines across Africa. My name is Aina Raizakweyo alongside Ashwin Bering.
Yes, indeed, it is good to be here on a Thursday. Today, we honor World Tuberculosis Day. Tuberculosis is a serious disease of the lungs which causes severe coughing, coughing up blood, and night sweats. It can be fatal if not treated, as it remains a huge epidemic among the world population. Now, tuberculosis can be treated with medication, but those in third world countries don't have access to those resources. This disease can lead to death over a long period of time. World Tuberculosis Day aims to increase the awareness of this disease while also encouraging people out there to end this potential epidemic. Here's a video on World Tuberculosis Day.
Thank you very much for rising with Africa Good Morning. In our top stories, 15 seriously injured trying to drive elephants away. 15 people were seriously injured when they tried to chase away a herd of 11 elephants in Manchenkwa, Mancha district in Maputo province. In addition to attacking farmers, the Pachi dams destroyed their small holding pots on a daily basis. Some of those affected told Radio Mozambique that elephants frequently pass through their locality despite the danger they pose to inhabitants and the impact on their agricultural fields. They say that famine threatens as a result of devastation of crops by elephants. Responding to reports of elephants in Mankwencha, agricultural extensionist Nasio Chichava, who is assigned to the locality, said that the specialist had been deployed, but given a number of elephants, it had not yet been possible to scare them away entirely.
In our next story, Cape Town boot camp offers a path away from ganglands. The scene looks like a military conscription, but it is actually a sought-after program that takes young people from Cape Town's toughest streets and sets them on a path to employment. Despite Cape Town's reputation as a holiday paradise, its streets rank amongst the deadliest in the world. All of South Africa has a horrific crime problem, but in 2021, Cape Town's murder rate was by far the highest in the country at 64 killings per 100,000 people. The academy was set up in 2000 by local government in the shadow of the high-security Paulsmoor prison. Chrysalis runs 3 3-month courses which cover leadership and self-discipline each year for people aged 18 to 25, with 2 courses for men and 1 for women. The boot camp style courses focus on fitness and discipline, as well as mental well-being and vocational skills. Mobile phones, drugs, and cigarettes are prohibited. The course ends with 4 weeks of vocational training, where students study areas such as cooking, firefighting, or police training. Chrysalis then works with the provincial government, which largely funds the program, to find each student a 12-month career placement.
In our next story, Doctors Without Borders suspend operations in northern eastern Congo, and this is due to violence. French charity Doctors Without Borders announced on Monday that it would stop its humanitarian aid operation in 2 villages in northern eastern Ituri province of the Democratic Republic of Congo due to an increase in violent attacks two of which recently targeted its workers. This decision comes in the ongoing absence of security guarantees on behalf of the various groups fighting in the region. The two villages are currently under the Congolese Army's control. However, attacks on military installation and vehicles occur regularly. Our mission is to save lives, but not by sacrificing our own, said the head of the MSF program in the Democratic Republic of Congo. MSF called on armed groups to respect the international law protecting humanitarian aid workers. It also asked the government to carry out an investigation into the attack, but this request has not been responded to so far.
In our next story, about 200,000 children exposed to online sexual exploitation abuse in Tanzania. An estimated 200,000 children were victims of online sexual exploitation and abuse in Tanzania in the last year, a new study found. According to the study done by End Violence Against Children with the assistance of Interpol and United Nations Children's Fund, online sexual exploitation and abuse is still a very new issue for most people, and even when the police is informed about online child exploitation and abuse, it will take a long time for them to understand. The study also found that 4% of internet users aged 12 to 17 in Tanzania were victims of grave instances of online sexual exploitation and abuse. This includes being blackmailed to engage in sexual activities, someone else sharing their sexual images without permission, or being coerced to engage in sexual activities through promises of money or gifts. The most common platforms used being social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. End Violence Against Children said 82% of internet-using children surveyed said they did not know how to report harmful content on social media, while 67% said they did not know where to get help if they or a friend were subjected to sexual harassment or abuse.
In our next story, deploying more security agents in Southeast will aggravate extrajudicial killings, Huriwa warns. Civil rights advocacy group Human Rights Writers Association of Nigeria yesterday said the recent approval by President Major General Muhammadu Buhari that additional security personnel be deployed in the Southeast will aggravate extrajudicial killings in the zone. Huriwa, in a statement, said that the path to lasting peace and security is through federalism, which allows state governors to have control over security agents as the chief security officer of the individual states. For about 1 year, the Southeast has become another killing field as non-state actors and state actors clash perpetually. Scores of police stations have been razed and government institutions as well as private assets have also been denoted by ramping gunmen with mounting casualty toll. Now, after the break, we bring you more news. Stay with us.
Thank you for staying with Africa. Good morning. Let's get into the second half of our top stories. Now, e-hailing drivers attack and disarm police officer during a protest at union buildings. Despite last-minute negotiations on Monday between the Gauteng MEC of Transport and Unity in Diversity, angry e-hailing drivers took to the streets on Tuesday in a planned 3-day strike in Gauteng. The drivers switched off their apps in protest against alleged exploitation from companies such as Uber, Bolt, and Didi, and have called on the government to step in to regulate the industry. The peaceful protest took a violent turn when a group of drivers disarmed and injured a police officer at the union buildings on the second leg of the first day of the protest. The drivers proceeded with the protest and handed over a memorandum at the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition at the union buildings. The demands included better earning rates and safety for e-hailing drivers, with some saying they don't feel safe on the job. One driver said they were earning peanuts while everything has gone up, from petrol to living expenses.
Uganda police officer works for 6 years without a salary. A female police officer in Kwaina district has worked for 6 years without getting her salary after her name was deleted from the government payroll. Trouble started after the officer added an initial in her name during registration for the National Identification Card. The salary department then withheld her salary after she was suspected to be a ghost. The police political commissioner Asan Kasinge said that the officer's name could not be traced in the Ugandan police force records. Kasinge added that they also found a similar problem in the Kole district, where a female officer has 3 names, yet the police record only shows 2. Kasinge was in the region for a week-long tour of police stations and barracks in all the 9 districts that make up of Lango sub-region in order to address the human resources needs of the officers, where challenges of welfare, human resource, including some people who have been missing salaries, were detected.
Now in Lesotho, civil servants to down tools. Civil servants are set to down tools next week, Thursday, to protest against the 5% salary increase the government awarded 2 weeks ago. The public servants want a 25% and say they will keep fighting until the government concedes to their demands. They are planning to march to the parliament to submit a petition to Speaker Sepiri Motranyane and Prime Minister Mokgweetsi Majoro. The group is made up of 7 associations and unions of nurses, teachers, police officers and other civil servants. The group said they have since written to the police to request a permit for the protest. Inspector Makatleho Mapeto, the Secretary General of the Police Staff Association, said they don't believe the government's claims that it is broke, adding that they know the government can pay the 25%.
Children sneak in and out of Namibia selling illegal fuel. On the streets of the northern border town of Oshikango, school-going children hawk contraband items. Furtively, they keep looking back for any signs of men and women in uniform out of fear of being caught. Amid recent fuel price increases, fuel has become a new golden commodity at the border town. Between the border of Angola and Namibia, Angolan children as young as 15 managed to evade immigration officials by sneaking into Namibia under the cover of the night. Many of these children are dressed in casual clothes as they trade smuggled items, mostly unfiltered fuel, under trees and behind shopping centers. Many of these children come from villages surrounding Oshikango. They often skip school, like Hangula, who ventured into smuggling because business is booming and he's able to share his earnings with his mother. According to the children, fuel smugglers sell a 5-liter container for about 40 Namibian dollars, while a 25-liter container is sold for 280 Namibian dollars. In comparison, Namibian pays $17 per liter for petrol and 17 Namibian dollars per liter for diesel. The police has warned such illegal fuel smugglers to desist from this act and avoid selling smuggled fuel.
Now, in the last of our top stories, 20 million African children in line for a shot as 4-country polio vaccination program kicks off. The vaccination of more than 20 million children against polio in Malawi, Mozambique, Tanzania and Zambia through government partnerships with the United Nations Children Fund has started. UNICEF had so far procured more than 36 million doses of the polio vaccine. Now, on Sunday, the program was launched in Lilongwe, Malawi. In February, Malawi recorded recorded the first case of polio in Africa in the past 2 years. Now, UNICEF said the first round of vaccination would target 9 million children, but that there will be 3 more rounds of vaccination. That brings us to the end of our top stories. Now, the All People's Party recently published their financials, and we'll be having a discussion around this transparency with their Secretary General, Mr. Vincent Kanyetu, right after the break.
Welcome back to Africa Good Morning, and thank you very much for watching. All People's Party Secretary General Vincent Kanyetu explains the political party's decision to make its financials public. He further urged other political parties that receive taxpayers' funds to follow in the footsteps for transparency purposes. Good morning, Master Kanyetu. How are you?
Good morning, good morning. I'm very fine. How are you today?
All right, thank you very much for joining us this morning. What prompted the party's decision to publicize its financial results?
Well, thank you very much. Before we come to the answer as to why prompted us, we must be grateful that we are able to see each other smile once again after having using the mask for quite some time. And we must applaud ourselves as a nation and as individuals for fighting the fight up to where we are now. Coming back to your question, well, All People's Party is a party founded by men and women who are principled, and it's as we all know, we are in a democratic country ruled by the rules and the laws that we have in place, particularly that has to deal with political activities. We are prompted just by the fact that we are a democratic organization, democratic political party. We are a law-compliant political party, so to say. That's why we have decided that we have just to make everything public, though we have been reporting all the years since 2015 to the Electoral Commission. But we didn't publicize our financials as the case now. So it is also from the side of Electoral Commission that they have been reminding all political parties to publicize all our financials with different newspapers. So that is in short what prompted us to publicize our financials.
All right. Now, unlike All People's Party, most political parties that receive public funds have not been complying with the legal requirements, which you just highlighted, to publicly showed, how such funds have been used. What would you blame this on? If you could please keep your answer as concise as possible.
Well, one can say it might be possible a lack of enforcement from the Electoral Commission. Parties didn't started to get the party funding only 2015 or 16. We started way back. But the question now is that why did the Electoral Commission only started to remind political parties or tell political parties continuously that we have to publicize our financials? So it's also up to individual political parties. Unfortunately, I cannot speak on different political parties. It's also upon themselves as political parties to know what the reasons. They might have better reasons as to why they don't want to publicize their financials.
All right. What are some of the challenges that you face when it comes to funding? And in the same breath, can you just touch on what is APP's position on the call for political parties to reveal their donors?
Well, it has always been a challenge, more particularly with the small political parties like our own, when it comes to funding. Talk about trying to raise funds either inside the country, where every business person is afraid to associate themselves, particularly with opposition political parties. And then it's a challenge. And when you look at the funding that we are getting from the state, for example, like the APP in particular, the funding that we are getting from the state per quarter is far too little. It can be compared to a fund that some political parties, those that call themselves having all the money, are using probably in 2 weeks or 3 weeks time. It's a challenge. It's a challenge because sometimes you get this funding a bit delayed while you have your activities already scheduled, and you have to wait. I mean, just as I said, parties that the likes of All People's Party, who are likely to only depend from small members' contribution and that of the state funding, it's finding it so difficult in terms of operation and staff, and it's so delaying when it comes to implement the programs, your yearly programs or quarterly programs. But then,
Sorry to cut you off, Mr. Kanyetu. Sorry to cut you off. I just need you to wrap up because I need your take on this as quickly as possible. What's your take on public calls urging the Electoral Commission of Namibia to ban parties that receive public funds and don't make their financials public? In very few words, sir. Sorry for cutting you off.
Thank you, sir. Well, we shouldn't have anything to hide. Those who are unable to publicize their financials, so let the rule speak by itself. I mean, if you are trying to be a government, why should you have something to hide? We are trying to be in public office, so everything must be public. That's it.
Indeed. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Vincent Kanyetu, for joining us on Africa Good Morning.
Thank you very much. Next time you must have enough time.
All right, next time we will surely make enough time. But thank you very much for expanding as much as you could on the decision All People's Party recently made to publicize their financials. This is still Africa Good Morning. After the break, we take a trip to Zimbabwe and chat with Talent Gore. Thank you for staying with Africa Good Morning. Now, in Zimbabwe, police have arrested a most wanted serial killer and rapist who's linked to 11 murders. Here to expand on this story and more is Talent Gore. Good morning, Talent.
Good morning, Ashwin. Good morning, Africa.
Please do continue.
So police have arrested a man who terrorized people in Marondera in the last few months when he allegedly went on a murder and rape spree. Apparently, he killed more than 10 people, mainly women. Sources say that the arrest of Bright Jantali, who is 30 years old, will clear more cases of murder and rape that occurred recently in the Mashonaland East province. The court was told that yesterday the court yesterday was told that he admitted to police that he raped and murdered other women in Rusape, Mutare, and Nyanga. He actually murdered women in most parts of the country. So he needed to take the police to the places where he hid the bodies of the people that he would have killed. Apparently 5 women in which he killed were sex workers, and some of them he killed using their exes, and some he actually strangled them to death. Last year, the same man was arrested for a murder charge but was released on bail, which is whereby he then went on a killing spree. So he has been remanded in custody by the police.
All right. A top supporter of CCC was assaulted in police custody. Please tell us more.
A Popular Citizens Coalition for Change supporter, Gotv, who is affectionately known as Madzibababe Shandiko, was assaulted in police custody. He was found by the police in the CBD in the Harare Central Business District whilst he was on his way to campaign for his party. He was wearing party regalia in the city and encouraging people to vote for Nelson Chamisa and to vote for Citizens Coalition for Change members of parliament. So we are heading for elections. Zimbabwe is heading for by-elections this coming Saturday. So all parties in Zimbabwe, they're actually campaigning for their members to take part in the parliamentary seats. So he was assaulted by the police in the custody of the police, and he is not the only person who has been assaulted by the police. And we have also found that the police are shutting down Nelson Chamisa's rallies. They were supposed to hold a rally yesterday, but the police denied them to hold their rally. So now we are seeing that the way the police are acting towards the CCC is quite different from the way they're acting towards other parties in the country. So the Nelson Chamisa front is saying that it's not fair that police are terrorizing CCC supporters for merely wearing regalias and encouraging people to vote for the CCC party.
Yes, police should indeed be impartial. Now, health workers threaten mass resignation over a proposed law. Could you tell us about that briefly, Talent?
So health practitioners have rejected the Health Services Amendment Bill, which they seek to punish them for exercising their labor rights, and have threatened mass resignation. So apparently there is an amendment bill which seeks to punish nurses and doctors for striking, which seeks to punish them for exercising their labor rights. So the nurses say that if that amendment bill is passed, they are going to resign and they are going to flee the country and go to other countries for greener pastures. Well, this is actually said, this came out when the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Health and Childcare was conducting a public hearing on the bill, and the medical staff rejected the proposed bill, which they said was despotic. So they're saying that they cannot allow such to be done to them, as the Constitution allows them to strike, it allows them to demonstrate against the government if they see that the government is not being fair to them, is not paying them well. So they're saying that they will not allow that bill to be passed.
All right. Thank you very much, Talent, for bringing us the pertinent stories from Zimbabwe.
You're welcome, and thank you very much for having me.
It's always good having you on Africa Good Morning. Next up, let's have a look at the weather forecast before we swing over to Botswana and have a chat with Maseho Mohwasa.
Have you received a loan from NSFAF? NSFAF loan is the same as any other loan. It must be paid and settled. NSFAF has a set of guidelines on how you can repay your loan and become debt-free. Therefore, it is important that you, a former beneficiary and a responsible Namibian, show your patriotism by helping pay back your loan and thus helping NSFAF become a revolving fund for the benefit of future potential students. By failing to pay back your NSFAF loan, you risk being blacklisted or having a court order against you. So arrange with the fund to pay back your loan today. For more information on how you can repay your loan, visit our website at www.nasfaf.na or visit our Facebook page or Twitter. Do the right thing and hashtag payback the money.
Welcome back to Africa Good Morning. Now, in Botswana, police commissioner is arrested on charges associated with the Khama family. Masego Mogwaza has this story and more. Masego, please tell us about these developments, and I hope you're doing fantastic this morning.
Good morning to you in studio, and good morning, Africa. Now, following the debacle earlier this week with the Khama family, Police Commissioner Makgope was arrested for illegal licensing of firearms to the Khamas. Gabitz Makgope was arrested earlier this week, and he was arrested by the DIS as eyewitness accounts spotted law enforcement officers shutting down the police headquarters near Parliament and the Ministry of Defense, Justice and Security. The police drove away with Makgope in police and private number-plated vehicles. Makgope's official vehicle was also spotted at the scene as it drove between the Ministry of Defense and the police headquarters. After the arrest, the vehicle sped off to the DIS headquarters in Sibili, where Makgope was allegedly questioned. Now, this does beg the question whether or not our current president and current leadership are digging into corruption and uprooting it, or if it's another bout of political bullying. Now, we have yet to find out how the story unfolds, and I'll make sure to keep you updated.
We'll certainly be looking forward to that. Now, districts are considering ways to assist residents with high water bills following the COVID moratorium. Could you please tell us about that?
Yes, many have fallen a victim to unpaid water bills around the country, but especially the Gauteng district has tried to figure out the best way to assist its residents battling with high water bills. The district chairman, Daniel Molokwe, says discussions are already ongoing with Water Utilities Corporation to meet customers at an individual level. Individual level meaning trying to figure out settlement plans for each individual proportional to the debt that they owe. As most people have been forced to step forward to water utilities because their water has been disconnected. This comes as the water utility says that it is owed millions of pula across the country, with Gauteng district alone owing over 42 million pula. During the pandemic, citizens of Botswana were pardoned with their water bills just to ease their life. As you know, a lot of people were out of jobs, a lot of people had their pay cut, so the government did see it fit to pardon a lot of bills.
All right, Zebra back in football. Gamonyo prepares for friendly game against Tanzania. Tell us about this.
Yes, the national Botswana football team Zebras are back in camp to prepare for a friendly match against Tanzania. The team have been inactive since the COSAFA Cup, which took place last year in July. And the Zebras were, however, meant to play Eritrea in a preliminary round tie before the Eritrean team withdrew, meaning that the Zebras will start the qualifiers at the group stages as they bid their return to the AFCON finals for the second time. The friendly against Tanzania is meant to help Zebras prepare for AFCON, as interim coach Mohomuti Mapote highlights that the reset will be important to warm the team up for the AFCON games. That brings me to the end of my report today. I hope that both of you and everyone in studio has an amazing rest of the week.
Thank you very much, Maseko. We are certainly looking forward to a fantastic week. Now, after the break in economic news, we'll be talking about how Angola plans to use the Lobito corridor as a vehicle for investment and growth. This is Still Africa. Good morning. See you soon. Thank you for staying with Africa. Good morning. Now, in the first of our economic news stories, Angola uses Lobito corridor as a vehicle for investment and growth. Angola is looking to revolutionize the landscape of Southern Africa. Using private investment, it wants to transform the port of Lobito into the gateway of this region. It is also planning to make the province of Benguela the epicenter of trade and development in Southern Africa. The Atlantic port of Lobito, along with the Benguela Railroad, makes up the Lobito corridor, which reaches more than 1,300 kilometers deep into the continent. It's the quickest export route for copper, cobalt, and other ores from Zambia, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and beyond. Now the railway is renovated. The port of Lobito is also getting ready for a renaissance. Angola is privatizing it with a 20-year concession to attract new investment and boost the economy. Pedro Neto, the CEO of investment banking advisory firm, says that the port of Lobito is a serious opportunity to create a network of the Atlantic coast to import and export goods and products from Zambia and the Democratic Republic of Congo to the coast.
No takers for African Bank. The South African Bank Reserve has had no success in selling its 50% stake in African Bank Holdings Limited and is now backing an initial public offering, mostly likely through a listing on the GSE as an alternative exit option. This was confirmed in an update by the central bank on the JSE on Monday. It comes just over 9 months after the SARB announced that the time was right to sell its shares to the African Bank, rather in the African Bank. The SARBs never wanted to be a shareholder in African Bank, but ended up being the majority shareholder when African Bank failed in 2016 and the authorities thought it is best to save it from demise. The SARB ended up with 50% and the government employee pension fund with 25% after the pension fund's investment manager and Public Investment Corporation was convinced to stick in some capital in return for a stake of 25%.
Now in Malawi, inflation soars to 13% in February. Elevated food prices in the country, coupled with persistent disruptions to global commodity supply chain, continue to pile pressure on Malawi's headline inflation, the rate at which prices of commodities change at a given time, seen at 13% in February 2022. Figures from the National Statistical Office show that inflation soared by about 0.9 percentage points from 12.1% registered in January. This is after another rise from 11.1% in December 2021. Both food and non-food inflation have been on an upward spiral in recent months, and in a statement, NSO says food and non-food inflation rates stood at 15.3% and 10.1% respectively. The food component, largely influenced by maize, Malawi's staple crop, which has a huge weight at 45.2% in the consumer price index, heavily impacts the country's inflation.
Investors now to obtain permits within 7 days. Foreign and local investors will from July this year be able to obtain all necessary permits within 7 working days, down from the current 14. This follows the government's decision to cut red tape in investment by establishing the Tanzania Electronic Investment Window, whose development began last December. The system is being developed in phases by local information and communications technology experts, and the first phase will bring under a single window 7 government institutions, including the Tanzania Investment Center, National Identification Authority, and the Tanzania Revenue Authority. Investment Industry and Trade Permanent Secretary Godios Kayarara told the Citizen that the first phase, which will address bureaucracy in the issuance of investment permits, was 70% complete. He added that the government believed that the TLW would largely solve problems prospective investors face, particularly in lodging application and insurance of investment registration numbers and permits.
All right, that brings us to the end of our economic news stories. Just before we get into the sports, let's have a look at your economic indicators. This is Still Africa. Good morning. Right now, it's time for us to get our sports package from the only way we know how, from Ari Hochad.
Good day, everyone. It's time for international sports news, and today we start off with tennis news, and it's the Miami Open tennis tournament that's started in Florida in the USA. But first, some news from the women's circuit, and it's actually shock news in that the world number 1, that is Ashley Barty. She's just 25 years old, and she announced her retirement. So not often that the world number 1 retires at the peak of her career, but the Australian just won the Australian Open a few months ago, and also previously in 2019 won the French Open. In 2021 she also won Wimbledon. So it's Ashley Barty of Australia that said that she had enough of the tennis game and she's going to put down the tennis rackets. In 2014 she also retired from professional tennis to pursue a career in professional cricket, so it might be that she also pursue that again, but that is not confirmed. The Miami Open then continued or started in Miami. That is ATP Thousands Tour, ATP and WTA. The men's and the women will also both play in the tournament. And the number 1 seeds, the highest seeds are yet to play, but some of the results we can mention in the men's section. It was Jack Sock of the USA played against his countryman, that is Steve Johnson. He beat him by 6-2 and 6-2. And then also Yoshiti Nishua of Japan. He played against Christopher Eubanks of the US and beat him in 3 sets. On the women's side, it is Shelby Rogers of the USA that played against Amanda Anisimova, and she beat her in the 3 sets, 6-3 in the 3rd set. And then also Ann Lee of the USA, she played against a player of Egypt, that is Maya Sharif, and it was Ann Lee of the US that won that also in 3 sets, 6-4 in the 3rd. On to some golf news, and the next event on the USPGA is the Dell Technologies. It is the World Match Play Championships. That's been played at Austin in Texas in the USA. And news from the tournament is that John Rahm, the world #1, is the #1 seed in that tournament. #2 seed will be Colin Morikawa, and the #3 seed, the world #3, that is Victor Hovland. Not often that you see seedings in golf, and the reason is there's 16 groups of 4 players in each group, and they play against each other, round robin, and the winner of each group go through to the round of 16, and then the semi-finals, the quarterfinals, semi-finals, and final follow in that order. South Africans that's playing, 3 of them, Southern African interest, that is Louis Oosthuizen, also Christian Besaidnout, and also Eric van Rooyen. Those 3 will be involved in the tournament. Now for cycling news, it's the Volta de Catalunya tour that's taking place at the moment. Stage 2 was completed. It was over 202 kilometers, and the winner there was Caden Groves of Australia. It's his first ever win in this as a professional on that stage in the higher category tours, and it was a tight sprint finish, and he came through as the winner. He won in 4 hours 44 minutes and 28 seconds. Just the hundreds of seconds in second place was Phil Bauhaus of Germany, and then also Hugo Hofstetter of France was in 3rd position. The overall classifications at the moment is that Jonas Vinderberg is the leader at the moment. Second place is Michael Matthews. He won the first stage also in a sprint, and in 3rd position is Hugo Hofstetter. The 3rd stage will be over 161 kilometers. Maybe the sprinters will be too much in action this time. There's more hills in this section, and it will be over 161 kilometers. Now we stay with cycling news. It is the Absa Cape Epic currently taking place in Cape Town, close to Cape Town, between Somerset West, Stellenbosch and Greyton. And the news from the second stage is that it is Nino Schroeder and Lars Forster that won the second stage, and it is still Andreas Seewald of Germany and his teammate Martin Czosek of the Czech Republic that is the overall leaders. In the women's section, it is South African Robin de Groot and a partner, a teammate from that is from France. It is Pauline Prouvet. They won the stage, but still the overall winners is Team Batten and Villeneuve. They're the leaders after stage 2. And to conclude today's international sport, this coming weekend, it is the second race of the Formula 1 racing season. The first one is done in Bahrain, and the second one will be in Saudi Arabia. And it is going to be a street circuit. It's a very fast circuit. Last year, there were lots of incidents in the race, so the same is expected in the race again. Both the Honda team, the Red Bull Honda team, and Ferrari was quite competitive and seem to be the 2 fastest cars at the moment. But according to Red Bull, the team management, they say that they know what went wrong. They're not making it too public. They're a bit quiet about that, but they say they have sorted out the reliability issues, and they will be competitive again in Saudi Arabia this coming weekend. The race will be on Sunday. So that's international sports news for now. I hope you have a great day. We talk again tomorrow. Goodbye.
Africa Good Morning has been streaming live from the top of the hour, bringing you all the pertinent stories from the African continent and beyond. Now, if you perhaps missed our headlines or our top stories, worry not. Here are some of the highlights. 15 seriously injured trying to drive elephants away. Cape Town boot camp offers a pathway from ganglands. Doctors Without Borders suspends operations in northeastern Congo due to violence. About 200,000 children exposed to online sexual exploitation abuse in Tanzania. Deploying more security agents in southeast will aggravate extrajudicial killings, Huriwa warns. Angola uses the Lobito corridor as a vehicle for investment and growth. Those have been our stories.
Thank you very much for joining us on Africa Good Morning. We do welcome your remarks regarding our show. You can post them on our Twitter and Facebook pages. It's at Africa Good Morning. Remember that our DMs are always open. Please do drop us an inbox. We also have a website. It's called One Up To. Please do visit us. This particular show also airs on DSTV channel 285 as well as Gotv channel 94. And on that note, it's all our love, all our light.
Swera Zwakanaka.